Chris? How's everything?
I'm fine. I'm fine, sir. And you?
Good, good. Excited?
Pretty excited.
That's great. That's good news. So, as I said, let me ask you first before we start. Did anybody have an experience in programming in general? You can raise your hand if you do.
I think I have.
Perfect. Sounds good. Anyway, we're gonna start from the scratch today. I'll make the assumption that you never did any programming before, and we'll start from the scratch, as I said. So to get things running, I'm gonna start sharing my screen, and today we're gonna use the peer deck. So you will have a code. You go to the website, enter this code. You will be able to see the slides as well.
Hi, Alfred. How are you?
Hey, Hayden Barry, how's everything?
I'm also fine. Welcome, everybody. I'm Barry. I'm the team lead of full stack team in Clarusway. So we will have 4 days of HTML, CSS workshop. We are starting today. Chase, are you here?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah. Okay. Before we start, Chase will talk what's Clarusway and what courses we have. And actually, we are in full stack and what we deliver with full stack. He will do a 10 minutes short introduction of full Clarusway, and then we will continue with the HTML CSS lesson. Okay. Welcome again, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Okay, so I'll explain. Let me share my screen here, and I'll just show everybody what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Okay. So hi, everybody. My name's Chase. I'm an instructor here at Clarusway for the full stack course. And right now I am teaching React. So let's talk about how to start a career as a full stack developer here. When you're picking a boot camp, there's so many options out there. You know, there's hundreds. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I heard there were thousands of different boot camps that you could choose from. And I've attended 2 boot camps myself. One was back before TypeScript, and we didn't even learn the new JavaScript features. It was like 2015. And so I recently did another one like maybe just over a year and a half ago for React, because my first one was with Angular. But already with Clarusway, I'm amazed at how many projects that they build. I keep telling my students that. So, you know, do your research whenever you're picking a boot camp, because there's so many of them out there. Clarusway has a lot of credibility. You can look at Course Report. You know, we've got really good reviews. We're in the top schools at Course Report, and we are known as the Rising Star. So why Clarusway? Career Karma. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Career Karma. They kind of help people find boot camps. You can just check reviews and look up information about boot camps for yourself. We are in the top 15 best coding boot camps. That's kind of generalized. We're in the top 15 best online coding boot camps, top 10 best data science boot camps, and the 10 best data analytics boot camps. So pretty good reviews across the board. And so we've gotten Course Report's Best Online Bootcamp 2022, Best Data Science Bootcamp of 2021, and we're top rated pretty much across the board. So who are we? Clarusway started in September of 2019. Now we have over 130 people. We have a training facility in Washington, DC. And we currently have over 1,000 students enrolled right now in 39 countries. So that's over 1,000 students that are currently enrolled. So we have a training facility here in the United States. So the Clarusway team, we have instructors and we have mentors. Okay, so I'm an instructor. I will lead classes and explain things and build projects, and mentors are there to help you along the way. So you have your instructors and you have mentors to help you. And we have over 80 certified instructors and mentors. Also, you guys will have access to a career management team. So these are people who actually sit down and take the time with you and help you in establishing and finding your career, right? So you have coaching services, career services. That's something that neither of my boot camps really had. So it's nice that you guys, you know, because it's really confusing when you get into it, like, how do I get a job? You know, what's the process like? So you'll have someone to ask all of those questions that can guide you and help you understand how to actually make a career shift into web development, right? And then, you know, we have a network of experts and alumni that will share their experiences with you, you know, in the actual professional web development world. So you'll get to hear what it's actually like to be a web developer. And so we help IT beginners build six-figure salaries or in careers with Amazon Web Services and DevOps, full stack web development, data science, cybersecurity, Salesforce, blockchain, and Web 3.0. So we've actually got a pretty large range of curriculum. So I think you guys are here for full stack. Is that correct? Or you guys are interested in full stack? I'm not sure if that's or if I have the right idea. Okay,
Yes, sir.
cool. Cool. So we break it down into modules here. So for the premium course, you'll get IT fundamentals and like prep coursework. So it'll prepare you for like the basics. If you're coming in with like no experience or no knowledge whatsoever, I would highly recommend that. After that, we have our front end, which will make you capable of an entry-level IT position after you complete this module. But the back end module is I would recommend full stack. And I always tell people it's because if you can code what happens on the server, you can make an app complete from beginning to finish, right? Because if you just do the front end, for example, you can understand how to use somebody else's backend code. But then you're just building like the visual representation of whatever's happening with the data, right? So you would take data and then display it. So with backend, you actually learn how to store the data, and we'll get to that. So it's what we call it in the tech world is CRUD. So you'll learn how to create, read, update, and delete data, right? And once you do that, if you understand backend and front end, you can build any project to completion, right? So that's why I would suggest full stack rather than just front end. I mean, if you're gonna take the time to do a boot camp, you might as well, you know, do full stack. So we have our part-time course start dates. We have August 1st for front end. You could also do full stack. We spend 17 weeks learning front end and then 12 weeks learning back end. So for front end, these are prerequisites here. You need to understand the basics of Git, HTML, and CSS. Again, that's why I would recommend the prep course, because it'll get you up to speed. And it's really not that hard. I would say all this stuff might sound intimidating. It's not as hard as people make it sound. It's actually really easy as long as you just stay patient with yourself. You know, just learn it. It's like speaking a language. You're going to learn how to talk to a computer basically and tell it to do things. So our second option is a front end course that starts on August 1st. And then we have a back end starting on August 15th. So if you already know, you know, how to get around doing front end stuff. So our premium course start dates, we go over the IT fundamentals. A full stack will start on August 11th. And then front end also August 11th. And I'm assuming I'm kind of a new guy around here. So I'm assuming that the front end, you would learn it along with the full stack students, and then the full stack students would move on to back end. So I'm assuming these would be the same classes. So there we go, another full stack on August 15th. And then, let's see, so August 15th also front end. And then a separate backend, just backend course on August 29th. So here where it says backend, we require you to understand basic Python. That's because you're going to be using something called Django, which is completely written in Python. And it's basically like a web server that uses Python code on the backend. So what is full stack development? So for the front end here, we're going to learn HTML, JavaScript, CSS. Then we learn React. And we'll be styling also with Sass. If anybody's familiar with CSS, Sass is just something that compiles to CSS. It just makes coding your CSS a little simpler. So then we learn Redux. And all of these tools are for front end. So these will all come together, and this is how we're going to build like a view for our application. Okay. So for back end, you're going to learn Python with Django. Django, again, like I said, it's like a web, it's a framework for a back end, like server side with Python. And you're going to learn PostgreSQL. This is just a database. So this is how we save our information, would be inside of a database. And then you use the Django REST framework, which is for creating what's called an API, which is how you interface with basically the functionality of your web server. So the front end will communicate with the back end through an API. So we would have basically functions that say, hey, take this data and save it here. And we need to have those functions written in the back end, and we send values from the front end. So then we use Postman. This is to test your APIs. And then we'll deploy with Heroku, which is like a web host. And then we can test our code with Selenium. So why full stack development? Again, like I said, it's just, in my opinion, it's so much better. Like if you understand how to do everything as a whole, just understanding the front end it's good. I mean, there's plenty of front end jobs out there, but if it's just a few weeks more, you might as well learn it so that you can apply to even more jobs. Like there's so many jobs out there, and even most front end jobs are going to ask that you have some level of understanding of back end anyways, which is more often than not, I would say. But it's in very high demand. There's plenty of full stack developer positions out there. It does pay very well. And I've got some funny stories from friends that I've done boot camps with, and other friends that I've suggested go do boot camps. Which leads to excellent work-life balance, flexibility to work from home. Obviously, most of these jobs are remote, I would say nowadays. And then as a full stack developer, you're going to be more productive. You're not just going to be limited to one thing or the other, but yeah, I've had friends do full stack boot camps, and like I got a buddy who he graduated a boot camp, and then 3 weeks after he got a $60 an hour job for the Alabama Blue Cross, and he got the full stack certificate, but he's technically doing front end, but they wanted him to understand back end before they interviewed him. They made sure that he also understood back end stuff. But So how much does a full stack developer make? I don't know if you guys have already done the research, but when I was looking into boot camps, this is why I got so excited. Because I personally studied game programming, but trying to find a game programming job was like pretty rough. It's like, I always tell people, it's like going to school for acting and saying you want to be the next James Bond. It's like, it's so competitive for game programming. So what I ended up doing was teaching myself web programming and then doing a boot camp. Especially when I saw the salary ranges, it's, like the average full stack developer on Glassdoor makes 113,000 a year. And then I'll even see job posts myself where they will ask for 3 years of experience, and go look for yourself. Go on Indeed and just search by salary. I've seen jobs where they want a React developer with 3 years of experience, and they pay over $200,000 a year. So there's plenty of demand, and people are willing to pay for that demand. So our front end course is 17 weeks. We go over HTML, JavaScript, CSS, Sass, and Bootstrap. And Sass and Bootstrap are also for styling. So I would put those in the same category as CSS. And then we use React to build dynamic and interactive interfaces for our applications. We use Redux to just, if you guys don't know what Redux is, just think of it as managing your data flow, like where the data is manipulated and how it's manipulated, and keeping track of what's going on with your, we call it state, which is information that can change, right? So if you fill out an input field and you misspelled your name, you hit the, your backspace, the state is changing, right? Every time you change what's going on in an input field. And then when you submit it, it's going to send all that information somewhere. Firebase is a serverless kind of database where we don't have to have any backend. We can just interact with the database with Firebase. It's very simple and it works well. But in like corporate platforms, it's not super common. They usually have their own like backend system. So that's way more intricate than something like Firebase. And then we also use jQuery, which is, the way I explain jQuery to people is like shorthand JavaScript. It's like, it's written in JavaScript. And what it does is it's going to take a lot of common tasks that you're going to do with JavaScript, and it's going to give you a simpler syntax. Like you have to type less to do more, if that makes sense. Okay.
Are any of those drag and drop?
Pardon me?
Are any of those back-end curriculums, are any of them drag and drop?
Oh, kind of like a blueprints kind of
Yeah.
format where you click and drag things together?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, so you're gonna learn how to actually like type out code. What have you used that's drag and drop in the past? Or have you used something that was?
No, I'm just I'm just wondering if there is a drag and drop option or some type of a software, because writing code, just memorizing all the elements and all that is just so much, all the attributes.
Yeah, it seems daunting. Yeah. So what I tell people when they're worried about memorizing all this stuff, I personally, I don't feel like I learned this stuff as fast as other people have, like some of my friends, because I'm an extrovert and I have a lot of introverted friends, and it seems like they can just sit and read and remember stuff. But it can be daunting if you think about it like that, like you need to memorize all this stuff. But I would say it's not as difficult as it sounds. Like it's pretty intuitive. So like, how do I explain this? So like if you make something like, say you want to make an HTML page, you're going to have like words like body, paragraph, section or article, and then input, right? And so they all have like very intuitive naming conventions where it's pretty obvious what kind of functionality is behind that word, for example.
But like, so I've tried learning HTML, and the issue that I was having was knowing exactly where to put the attribute, where to input this element, to make, I know it's a, yeah.
Yeah, well, and we totally cover that like in depth.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not going to leave anybody behind. So I mean, if anybody feels confused on anything, like there's so many of us here that like even if I'm teaching a class of like 70 people, I've stopped and helped one person, understand something. Because you're obviously not going to get anything out of this if you get left behind. So, and that would be bad for us as well. So we go over every detail that you would ever need to know. And if you're stuck on something, we'll explain it to you and we'll find a way to help it make sense to you. And we do. So, like I've had to spend a lot of time, and it doesn't bother me at all, and sometimes, people are afraid to ask questions, and I would say, do not be afraid to ask questions, because, that's why you guys are here with us, is because we take the time to answer questions. Like the last boot camp I did was New Camp. And I don't know if you guys have heard of that boot camp, but it's like probably the cheapest boot camp you can attend. And I chose to do it because I already had a few years of experience and I just wanted a certificate with React. And I was telling my students that I'm just amazed at how many projects we code and how thoroughly we cover every topic. Because for me, I had to go through my coursework at my own pace during the week. And I had 1 4-hour classroom session a week. And that was like, it was $2,000. So obviously they're not going to be able to afford to have the instructors there with us outside of 1 day a week, which was definitely not enough. So we're here every day of the week and we are very thorough. So does anybody else have any questions also?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
Yeah.
I'm in the cohort 2 currently, the Salesforce cohort, and I love Clarusway. For those who are new to Clarusway, it's so amazing how helpful every single instructor, every single mentor is. So I can vouch for the the amount of money that we pay for this boot camp. You get every penny because the instructors and mentors are so very helpful. They will find and if you have a question they don't know the answer to it, they will find the answer right away. And I really appreciate that because it's really important. So just wanted to put that comment out there.
Yeah, and we also help. Well, we're there to help people. I mean, this is exciting for us. It's really fun for me as an instructor when I help somebody understand something. It's a really good feeling because you guys. I also teach at a school for kids, and the kids aren't very excited when they learn how to code something because it's like their parents are making them, right? But here we get a really big sense of reward from helping someone understand something because we're helping them with their career. They want to understand this.
Exactly. And you can actually feel that that's the intent. So and that's appreciated a lot.
Yeah, and I have a student, I think he's doing an interview. And he's asked me some questions for his interview homework, and I'll definitely take the time throughout my day to message him on Slack and say, oh, hey, check this out. You know, this might help you solve that problem, or think about this, maybe think about it a little differently, and you know. But yeah, we're always here, and we're definitely looking out for everybody's best interest. Because if you guys don't succeed, we don't succeed, right? So okay, we're gonna build. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something to say?
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know if after all this, are they going to issue like a certification?
Yes. So are you asking if you receive a certification?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But even I would say even more important than the certification is like we have like a career department, like people who actually help you start a career. Like I've gotten the certification, and I haven't been able, you know, in the past to get any advice on how to develop my career as a software engineer. So I got the certificates, and I just kind of had to figure things out on my own. And a lot of that is trial and error for me, like a lot of interviews. And I would just learn from so many interviews. And, you know, I'd be like, okay, well, it would be nice if I knew that I was expecting that, or, you know, so I can't even imagine what it would have been like to have a career like department, you know. But yes, there is a certification.
Okay, that's just what I wanted to find out.
Okay, so we build a lot of different projects throughout the course. Like I said, with my boot camps, I didn't do as many projects as they do here at Clarusway. And it's awesome because it keeps you practicing, and they show you different ways to solve problems. Because when you're programming something, there's, you know, that you can solve it an infinite amount of ways, really. But they'll show you different ways to make solutions for similar problems so that you can see multiple ways to do things. And like, it's amazing because like we'll sit down and we'll make an app in a day. And then when we get to the more advanced apps, we'll take like 2 days to build an app. And by the time we're done, it's like, you know, I think the last one we built was it was a recipe searching app. And we basically made it an app so you could search for a type of food, and then it would show a list of recipes, and then you could select a recipe and actually see the entire recipe. Pretty cool app. And we built that in 2 days. And that's just one example also. Right here, I guess that was a recipe app with React. But with JavaScript, you're gonna also learn to do things like, I guess, like guess a number. You'll make a to-do app where you can make a to-do list and mark things as complete. Oh, I'm sorry, you had a question? Is that, how do I pronounce your name? Is that Utoma?
Hi, yes, you pronounced it correctly. Thank you.
Oh, cool.
I can see from the little you've said so far, you guys are doing a great job. I've never heard of Clarusway before. To tell the truth, I applied for a job, and one of the requirements was HTML, and I went online to search for anything that could give me a lead. I don't know if I'm actually, so after listening to the other lady, I'm kind of feeling a little bit out of place right now. I don't know if I'm supposed to have had the kind of background, because I'm a novice. I don't know anything of HTML, CSS, and the rest of it. I don't know if I'm in the right class, because it's because of the pursuit of a career that I kind of like stumbled on Clarusway. I'm only familiar with Udemy, and but I got curious, and I went ahead and I registered. Of course, I also intend to add on skills, for myself so that I can position myself for opportunities, because I do have another job where I think I'm required for to have some skills surrounding Salesforce, AS400, SAP, and the likes of it. So my concern is basically, I don't know if it's like for people like us, that's like me, let me speak for myself, that doesn't have any kind of background.
Yes,
I'm
the
a management
premium,
student actually right now, studying master's, so I don't know. I'm not IT line whatsoever, so I'm a banker, so I don't know.
yeah, so let's go back. Let me back it up here. Where are we? Right here. So we do go over the fundamentals in the prep course. So maybe that would be a good idea to start, because you would learn basics right there. But we do go from basics to full stack. But it sounds like, are you looking for a career change, like into like programming maybe, or?
In the long run, but in the short run, some of the jobs I am applying for require me to have some of the skills.
Oh, okay. And if you don't mind me asking, what is that job title?
Okay, so the one that led me to this is an administrative assistant in my school. Actually,
interesting. And they want
you
to.
Yes, it's in a university where I'm actually studying right now. So that's what actually, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so we do start at the very basics. This isn't advanced.
Chase, can I interrupt now? Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Because I shared the link in the chat, and if you have any personal or detailed questions, you can arrange one-to-one appointment with our advisors and ask your situation, and you can get personal advice from them. So that will be very appropriate way of talking about your career. So our experts are on live, and you can share, make any appointment anytime, according to your schedule, and you can ask your questions from there.
Yeah. Okay. So do they meet one-on-one, Barry?
Yeah, one-on-one.
Right. Yeah. You'll have someone talk to you about your unique case one-on-one. So
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So can we do an hurry, Chase, because
okay. So after you would complete the front end course, our back end course is 12 weeks, and that's where we go over, how do you store data and manipulate data on a server, right? And for that we used Postgres, the Django REST framework, Python, and Django. Django is just a framework for Python. And then we deploy or host our apps with Heroku and Python Anywhere. And we test them with Selenium, and we can test our actual functionality of our backend with Postman, just to make sure that it's doing what we expect, right? And so you would learn how to do all of that in 12 weeks. And so for the backend projects, like I said, you'll make a simple CRUD app, which is create, read, update, and delete, which are the main things that we do with data, right? So then we'll build a to-do app, a pizza app, a flight app, a quiz app, and then a blog app. And you'll learn how to make the different functionalities of all of these different projects. So if you graduate in full stack development, you have more options than just front-end developer. You can be a front-end developer, but like I said, most of those jobs will require some level of experience with back-end. But then you could also do back-end development. You can go for jobs that are titled web developer, full stack developer, obviously, React developer, JavaScript developer, Python, or Django. Okay, so that's it. Sorry, I kind of might have been long-winded there. If anybody has any last-minute questions for me. Otherwise, I'll leave it back to you, Alfred.
Thank you so much, Chase. Appreciate it. Okay, guys. So we'll start with the HTML today. As Barry mentioned, it's going to be 4-day class. The very first 2 classes we're going to be covering the basics.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chase. Appreciate it. So the very first 2 classes, we're going to cover the basics of HTML and how you set up your computer and get Visual Studio Code and what is the extensions that you're going to need to create a basic web page. In the third lecture, we're going to go over CSS, where we're going to go in many of the CSS properties, explain them, and cover many examples. And in the 4th day, we're going to dedicate that to make a full project based on the information that we're going to learn on the 3 days lecture. Okay. About me, I teach here in Clarusway, and I teach in a different boot camps as well. What I like about Clarusway, which I believe it's different from the other boot camps that I teach in, is it's small groups. That's I just finished my front end cohort this week, and it's feel like you're talking to friends. Everybody can ask you any question at any time. It is a small groups, and I'll make sure that all the students leave the lecture, all their questions answered, and that's probably something you're probably not going to find it in another boot camp, but it's great that they have it here in Clarusway. Another question that I want to answer it now, because I get it a lot. What could be the difference between I go and learn on my own on YouTube or Udemy, why I can't take a course in Udemy? Definitely you can do that. But the problem here with programming languages, version changes a lot. You're probably watching a video or following somebody on his code and you get an error. And now you don't have any support because you're watching that video. When you take a boot camp, you will have full support. Somebody look at your code, tell you, oh, you made a mistake here, and you have to adjust it this way. And you're going to have that human person working on your code. And that's the difference. If you're watching a video for somebody, you can't ask him a question, why you did it this way? How come you put that line? However, when you have one-on-one person, you can stop them at any minute. Can you explain this line again? And that's the main difference between you watching a Udemy or go on YouTube and watch a video and try to learn on your own. All right. I said that. Let me show you a project that I did with the students in the past cohort was Clarusway, which is something so you can see what could be the end result after you learn front end. I had the chance to only teach in the front end Clarusway, but I teach in back end in different boot camps and colleges. I'm located here in New York. If anybody familiar with New York, I'm teaching in Total College as well. Okay, let me start sharing my screen. You guys can see my screen. Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. So let's, as I said, let's see what is the end result. I'm just going to show you the project that, because we built it and we host it online. So it's exists online. You can go. It's just called RCT movie app.web.app. It's fully built in React. As you can see, it's a movie application. It have many features, and you're going to learn all this feature across the cohort. You can see once you hover over any of the movies, you will get a small overview about that specific movie. I can't log into a specific movie to see its detail. So if I click, it will tell me, hey, please, you need to log it to see the movie. So in that application, you learn also about authentication, how you can authenticate and log in and do register. So you can register You can either write your email, password, or you can use Google authentication instead. If you have an account, you can click and log in with your email, password, or use your Google email instead. I will use Google here to log in. And I use my account. And notice once I logged in with Google, it will get my name from Google, put it here. And now I can see the rating of each movie, how this movie get rated. And now I can click in any movie that I want to see its details. And I'll get the trailer movie of the trailer video of the movie itself. Then I can go back, I can search for any movie. As you can see, the searching functionality is open to me right now. Again, this is just an example of many applications. You will learn about them in Clarusway. I'm trying to show you what could be the end of your practice in HTML and CSS. Of course, to build something like that, we built it with React, but you need to know the basics of HTML and CSS. All right, so definitely you can log out, and once you log out, it redirects you to the login page. Okay, so I'm just want to give you like a feeling of the projects that we were develop here in Clarusway. All right, we'll start the HTML. Before we start, anybody have a question? And you will hear me saying that many times just to make sure that you guys, all your questions answered. So this is going to be our slides. We're using the peer deck. You can go to this website and put this code so you can see the slides live while we going over the slides. Okay, we got 3 students connected. 4, great. I'll start the slides. So we're going to start with, as I said, the very first class will be Introduction to HTML. We're going to go over what is HTML, what is the history of HTML, how an HTML page gets structured, and we're going to build a small, a simple HTML document. First, let's answer the question, what is HTML? Does anybody know what is HTML? What is referred to before we go see the answer?
Hypertext markup language.
Perfect. That's exactly what it is. So it's hypertext markup language. So it's a programming language. So you have the language at the end, which is short. You have the L in the name. And it's not actually a programming language, it's a markup language. So there's a difference between a programming language and a markup language. Markup language is that you define what is the layout of the page, what's going to be this page have. It's going to have a title, it's going to have a paragraph, it's going to have an image. So you're putting where is the places where they should be in your page. That's what markup is. And hypertext, of course, when the internet get invented, they refer to links mainly as hypertext because it was hosted online. You want the code? Definitely. I think this
is actually right there. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the code right here. Okay. As I said, a markup language defines the structure and the presentation of the raw text. And the way I explain this to the student, you guys always use the Word document, right? Word document, it is the same as HTML document. You can think about it the same way. In the Word document, you're creating a title for your text. You're creating a paragraph, you're adding an image in the Word document. Same idea, but here we're using an HTML document, not a Word document, okay? So in that case, we're presenting anything we want in that HTML page, similar what we do in a Word document, okay? Of course, we do it programmatically using the HTML, and we're not just type it similar as the Word document. but they are identical. At the end, they are presenting the text to the user. A hypertext is displayed on a computer or a device that provides access to other text through links. As I mentioned, hypertext is short for hyperlinks, and technically, historically, they call it hypertext or hypertext for the HTML, because it was over the internet, and the internet was using a lot of links in that time. So HTML, that's why they get the hypertext in its name. HTML is a markup language used to create documents on the web. Documents similar to the Word documents, but not on your computer, it's on the web. It describes the structure, layout of the web page. Okay, and as you will see soon, that the page that you create, it's actually, there is some information it will send to the browser itself. So there's a communication always, some data that you want to, not the user see it, but the browser understand it to present your page in a different way or in a certain way that you want. Any questions so far about describing what is HTML? Anybody fully understand what is HTML? Okay. Perfect. Again, this is a very nice example showing you what is the difference between the technologies that you're going to use to create an app in general. You have the HTML, which is the structure of the page. And you can think about it like, if it's a human, it's going to be the bones. Okay. Can you replace the arm bone with the leg bone? No. To create the human, the arm is an arm bone, the leg is a leg bone. So you can't just switch them around. So with the skeleton, you build the skeleton correctly. That's how you get the structure correctly. Once you have the structure, how it look like, how that person get dressed or how he do his hair, that's the CSS, how to look like in a nice way. So CSS, mainly, it's all about the appearance of your application. So if I create an application just with an HTML, it will be very ugly. But I can make it more appealing to the user and looking much better using CSS, okay? Which is short for cascading style sheets. So it's a styling sheet. Okay, you can think about it as a different programming language as well. So we got the HTML, we got the CSS, but we're missing something, the functionality itself. When I click on a button, I want to see the weather, or when I click a button, I want to do certain calculation. So I'm missing the functionality of my app. So I already laid out the components, or this is like an input field, or I'm creating a form. I have an input field, the user to enter his name, his password, and now it's looking good. But now when when the user click the button to log in, I want to do something. So there is a functionality to be happening here. And this functionality is the job of the JavaScript. Okay, so JavaScript is more about the functionality of your application, will make the magic happen. It also can control how your application look like, and it can manipulate the HTML. Okay, so you will have the structure, which is the HTML. You have the presentation, how does your application look like, and the behavior of your application, which in that case, JavaScript will play the major role here. And of course, JavaScript, just plain JavaScript, you're going to write a lot of code to do a lot of stuff, a lot of functionality. And you have many other libraries that will help you to write less code and be more efficient. The most popular library is React. So React is a library that's built on top of JavaScript, okay, for user interaction. Any questions? Okay. So again, in this mini bootcamp, we're just covering the very basics of the HTML and the CSS.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Sure.
There's no Java. Can it be like only web page that we read? There is nothing for clicking? Or
yes, definitely yes.
Okay.
So let me explain that actually before we move forward. And thank you so much for that question. That's a great question. You need to understand what is the difference between a website and a web app. Okay, website, you don't need to learn programming to do it. There's many like plugins, application that can create a website for you, and there is no functionality. Let me give you an example. Let's say a doctor web page. So he can put his name, what kind of services that he do, his phone number, his address, his hours, office hours. It's all information. You go and read it, and that's it. You can't interact with this application. On the other hand, think about an application like Uber. Is this application having a lot of interactions? Yes, it asks your location. It will show you the map. There is a lot of interaction. You can cancel the call. You can rate the driver. You can do a lot inside the app. So there is a lot of interaction between the user and the app itself. That kind of interaction, what make it a web app? Think about Netflix. Netflix, you go in, you can select the movie, you can rate the movie, you can add it to your playlist, you can add it to your favorite, you can go see the movie details. All this kind of interaction, what make it an app? You just don't go to Netflix and tell you, okay, here's the movies that we have, and that's it. And now when you try to click something, it's not working. No. And that's the main difference between a web page and a web app. And you need to know what is the difference, because if you get hired as a developer, they don't want you to build web pages, because everybody can build web pages. They want you to build web apps, application where the user can interact with them. Is that answer your question, Julie?
Yes, sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anybody else have a question? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the history of HTML and how it started until we're right now in version number 5, HTML5. So HTML was originally developed by Tim Berners-Lee while at CERN. So he was working at CERN. He was frustrated having to log in 2 different computers, and he had the idea that he couldn't like have a way or a better way that he can get the information from 2 different computers. He figured out that there must be a way to hop from one set of information to another that's on a different computer. This concept of the hypertext system started, connected with the network terminology and protocols needed to pass information between the 2 machines in that case. We go on from the basics of the fundamental of the World Wide Web, which we have. Think about the internet. It's thousands and millions of computers that's connected with each other, right? You having some data that storing it in your phone that somebody else can access it if you give permission to it. And let me tell you this, data becoming the most valuable assets. So that's why they're hiring a lot of developers, because if you have data, if you understand, for example, you probably know this example. If you go to pharmacy like CVS or anything, they want to collect your email address. Why? Because they want to see what you are purchasing. They do the kind of analysis of the data of their buyers. So data becoming very, very important to know what does the customer need. And that's part of the programming. When you learn programming, you know how to do this kind of analysis automatically using programming languages. Okay. So keep that in mind. Data is very important, and it's going to always be important. And you need programming languages to be able to analyze and store this data, like databases. For example, HTML is very evolving markup language, and it has gone through several changes since it was started. So you have version number 1, 1991. I was around that time. I remember the old days of the internet. That was version number 1. Then you have version number 2, version number 3, and it was 1997. And each version, it was introducing new feature in the language itself. And as you will see, it have different, introducing new syntax, new features. And until we came up now in 2014 to HTML version number 5, which is relatively new. Okay, you need to know that between version 4 and version 5, there was something called XHTML. Okay, that came out at 2000, which is same syntax, same everything. It have the difference would be that you need to close the tags. And I'll explain that when we go over the coding of the HTML. But as you can see, this is the history. It started 1991 and all the way to 2014. This is version number 5, and it's going to keep going. Probably going to have HTML6 coming up in the next 5 years. So let's talk about HTML page structure. Before we start the page structure, I hope you guys downloaded Visual Studio Code. It's going to be the editor that we're going to use. If you didn't, you can go just to Google and search for Visual VS Code. And you should have the Visual Studio Code here, which is, I can share the link definitely in the chat here. And it doesn't matter which your operating system, this button will detect it. It will detect now that I'm working on Windows, and it will tell me to download it for Windows. If you're working on Linux or Mac operating system, it will detect your operating system and it will let you download the correct version. And the very important thing that when you download it, because I already have it installed, but through the process, there will going to be check boxes. Make sure that you check all the boxes, because this will give you the ability to right-click anything and you have this option, open it with code. Okay, so while you're installing it, you will have multiple checkbox. Make sure that you select all of them. And one of them is going to be like, tell you that you want to have shortcut in the right-hand selection or in the context here. Yes, I want to have access to Visual Studio Code in my right click here. And it's very handy. Okay. Once you download it, you need to create a workspace. You need to create a folder. You can't just create a file and open it with Visual Studio Code. This is not how it works. You need to open folders, not files. And this is very important. Okay, so I can create a new folder here in my desktop, which is, I'm going to rename it. Let's call it HTML-1. Okay. Now, since I installed Visual Studio Code, I can right-click and open it with Visual Studio Code. This is one way you can do it. Second option, which I find that a lot of students get confused about it, is that you don't use this option of the right-click. You just go open Visual Studio Code shortcut. Just open it. And this is how it looks like. I have some codes open. I'm just going to close it. Don't save it. Okay. Do you guys? Is anybody still installing Visual Studio Code? If you do, we can take the break now. Let's go for a 15-minute break, and then while everybody's installing it, and then we can come back and continue and see what extensions we're going to use and how you can navigate Visual Studio. It might look a lot when you first opening it. And it's like, whoa, there's a lot of tabs, what I'm gonna do. But we're gonna go over how you can navigate your way here, step by step, okay? So let's take a 15-minute break. In that time, if you didn't install Visual Studio Code, make sure that you install it, and we're gonna continue after the break. So welcome back, guys, and we're gonna continue with Visual Studio Code. I hope everybody can install it at this point. And let's see how you can actually open Visual Studio Code. Rule number one, as I said, you always need a folder and open the folder with Visual Studio Code. And let me answer some of the question you might have in your head at this point. Do I need Visual Studio Code in order to write HTML and CSS? The answer is no. There is wide selection from many editors that exist online, and most of them are free. But I would say Visual Studio Code is one of the best, and it's owned by Microsoft as well. And as a matter of fact, you don't need editors to write an HTML or CSS. You can just use Notepad for that. But the reason that you're using these kind of editors, or doesn't matter which editor you're using, is give you some features, and you'll be able to use some extension than them. And if you forget some of the command, it will give you like a list of the commands, and you can select any of them. Okay, let me share my screen again. So we get that folder here that I created, which is currently it's an empty folder. The easiest way to open it with Visual Studio Code would be just right-click it. If you install it the correct way, you should have this open with code option right here. All right, let's say you don't have this option here. It's not a big deal. You can open the Visual Studio Code, which is open at the last project you was working on. Doesn't matter, that was my last project here. And let me open it a little bit like this. And now you're gonna go to File, because now it's not the folder that I wanna open. So you select File, Open Folder, not Open File, Open Folder, and you select the folder that you wanna open, which in my case here, this folder. And now you will see that it's gonna open a whole new Visual Studio Code for you with that specific folder. And you will see the welcome screen here, and you can close it. You can close any screen here by clicking this X over here. Okay, so this is how Visual Studio Code look like. And currently I have this folder, which is, as you can see here, empty folder. Okay, this bar here is very important. You probably don't have all this icon similar to what I have, because I'm having installed extra extensions. You probably definitely have this Explorer icon. You have the search icon, and you have the debug icon. This is for debugging your code. This is for searching anything in your code. And this is for listing all the files in your code. Okay. And here you have an extension icon. You can click in this extension icon, and it's like an app store where you can search for any application or extension in that case that you want to integrate it with Visual Studio Code. I like a couple of extensions that we're going to use it for this mini bootcamp. One of them is called material icons. I want to give some icons to my files of folders, and instead of the default icons that come with Visual Studio Code. So you can go here and type in material icons. It's here. It's icon, not icons, this is the image of the extension. Click in the extension. I already have it. That's why I don't have the install button here. But in your case, you probably should see an install button. Click in the install. Once you install this button, it will install the extension to the Visual Studio Code. Okay, great. I would say that's the only one we can use it for now. And later we're going to install more extension. So as you can see here, my HTML1 folder, which is this folder, it's currently empty. To create a file, an HTML file, you can use this button here. See, when I hover over it, it's a new file. And to create folders, it is the icon right next to it, which is new folder. So to create a file or to create an HTML page, similar to the document, Word document. To create a Word document, you have to create a doc file, right? Here, I need to create a file, give it a name. You can name it anything you want. I can call it basics. And the most important thing, so Visual Studio Code know what kind of language you use, is the extension of the file. Okay. So in that case, you put dot and the name of the extension. In my case, I'm creating an HTML file. So I'm going to put HTML. And you see it have this icon, which is look like an HTML5 icon because I installed the material icon extension. So this is coming from the extension. And now it's going to open to me this page. And this is my document page that you can go right now in your folder, open it, and you should have a file that looks like this. And you can open it actually with your browser. You can double click on it, which is currently don't have anything in it. It's an empty HTML document that get rendered in your browser. Any question about how you can create an HTML document?
Could you please repeat, how did you open basics HTML?
Oh, for now, I'm going to show you, of course, more advanced ways. Is cancel. So I'm going to close it. You open the folder that we created, the file inside it. So this is my HTML-1 that I'm currently open it with Visual Studio Code. You see the name of this folder. It is the same. You see it here. So this is the folder that you open it. Now I open it in my computer, and this is the file, and you just double click on it. And once you double click on it, it should open in your page. Is that's your question, how I open it in the browser or how I open it in Visual Studio Code?
Before.
Before, you mean in the Visual Studio Code?
Yes.
Okay, here, close everything, no, cancel. I have this folder, close everything here. This folder, I want to open it with Visual Studio Code. You right click in it and you have open with code. Do you see that selection in your computer?
Yep.
Okay, then you right click it. You click in it, it should open that folder and any files in it. You should see it here. Let's say it's empty folder. In this case, let's delete this. So I can press delete and it will be deleted. I press delete on my button and my keyboard and it get deleted. Now I open this folder and you should have nothing inside it. To create a file, you click on this icon right here and you type in any name that you want. Let's say basics. And then you put dot for the extension of the file. I want to create an HTML document. So you put the extension as HTML. And you see, before you press enter, you will see that this icon get changed to be an HTML icon. And the reason you have, if you don't have this icon, that means you didn't get the extension of the material icons. You press enter and you have the basic HTML. You created the page. You open the folder, you will see that there's a new file here. This file I created in the Visual Studio Code. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now I have an empty file. How I start? Again, in the Visual Studio Code, here is where you write your codes. Okay, and it's very, very important. I can type in here any code I want. Notice that you will see this white circle here. This white circle, that means that this file is not saved. To save the file, you press File, Save, or Control S as a shortcut. So I can press Control S. Notice what happened. This white circle is no longer there because the file is saved. I can type in something else. Now, whatever I type is not saved. And of course, you want to keep saving whatever you're coding. And so I'm going to press Control S or select File, Save. Okay. Now I remove everything. It showed me that the file is not saved. And if you want to close the file, you just click this X and it will close the file, ask you want to save it. Yes. Very basic instruction, similar that you're using any Microsoft document. Here, I'm open it again. You'll find the name of the file at the top here. Okay, let's get back to the slides. Every single page you will see in the internet, doesn't matter which page, Netflix, Facebook, Amazon, any page will have two parts, the head and the body. And usually what you see is the body. That's what you see, this body. What about the head? The head have some instructions that usually you don't see, that happen behind the scene between the code and the browser, because keep in mind, the code runs inside the browser. The browser is just an application and your code run inside this application. So many instructions that you want to send to the browser that will run your code, you send it through the head. But whatever actually the user gonna see is gonna see what's inside the body, which is inside the body gonna be the page content. Okay, here's the example. You need to identify that this is an HTML document, and you do that by creating a tag that called HTML. And let's stop here because I know this is confusing for many students. I have so many students before have this problem. It's a markup language. Any command or tag or element that you will create, it should start with the bracket like this, less than bracket and greater than bracket. So now I can type the name of the element that I want. All the elements in HTML should have this tags. They define them as tags. Now I want to define to the browser that this is an HTML page. You define that with a command HTML. So now this HTML gets started with this less than tag and greater than tag. And between them, you put the command, which in that case, an HTML, identifying that this is an HTML page. Okay, but the problem that 90% of HTML elements, they comes in pairs, opening and closing. Okay, this is the opening tag. So now I need to close it. Okay, to close it, it is the same one, HTML. The only difference between the before the text here, I just close it like this. Okay. Kona, what do you mean you're having a trouble Python to open? Visual Studio Code can be used with Python, HTML, C++, any programming language. It's just an editor. Do you make sure that you have the extension HTML? That's how Visual Studio Code understand that you're writing an HTML code.
Okay, yeah, it won't let me open an HTML file.
File in the Visual Studio Code?
Yes.
All right, yeah.
Just having difficulty trying to figure it out.
Share your screen real quick. I can help you with that. You can click in the button down there, share your screen, and let me see what is the problem that you have. And then we can get it solved.
says disabled.
Let me enable it. No, screen share. I have it here as enabled. Hold on. Yep, here we go. I can see, that's your screen, right? Okay. Yep. Okay. I can see your screen. Click on the, so let me request a remote control. Okay, you see this icon here? Can you click in the very first icon on the top? For some reason it's not clicking. Yep, click in this one. Here we go. You see, it'll tell you to open a folder, and this is the first note that I made, that you can't open Visual Studio Code for just by itself, but you can open a folder, click on open a folder, and select any folder that you want to open, because Visual Studio Code work with workplaces. Now it's gonna tell you which document you selected. This is the document that you want to open, right? Documents is the folder that you selected, right? You can create a new file if you want, that's fine. You know what? Close the welcome screen. There is an X on the top, close it. Yep. Now you see this bar here. Oops. I don't know what happened. Okay. I want you to move the bar a little bit, resize it. Some kind of, yeah, this bar and this bar, move it a little bit.
This one?
Yep. No, the one right, not the three dots, the bar, yeah, the whole bar. Yep. Perfect. You see the documents there, hover over it. You see the icon, no, yep, this icon to create a new file. And now we can type in basics.html.
Basics.
Here we go, it's HTML. Okay. And you notice that you don't have the material icon extension. You didn't install that, but you can install the extension from, you see the boxes down there, the icon of boxes. Yep.
The extension box.
Yep. And just search for material icons.
Material.
And once material icon, just to give you some nice icons, and you just click install and you get the extension.
Oh.
Okay. No problem. Okay. Now you select it. You will have the top here selected. You see it have a drop down in the top, material icon theme. Click on it. Top. No. Yes. Yes. This one. Here we go. Okay. You can stop share screen and continue. So I can share mine.
Right,
now you should be. You're welcome. Anytime. All right. Here you go. So again, as I said, let me repeat that. In HTML, you work with tags, and you have an opening tag and you have a closing tag, and you put stuff between them. And they are pretty much similar, only the closing tag have a / after this less than character here, okay? So this whole thing is called an element. This is just called opening tag. And this is the closing tag. And combining both of them and anything between them will be called an element. In that case, I'm defining an HTML element. Is that going to make any difference to my page? No. It's just defining to the browser. It's an information to the browser that this is an HTML document. That's all it's going to do. Can you just skip it? Yes, but it's not the best programming practices. Can you just not type it and not tell the browser the correct, what actually the type of document you created? Of course. And the browser is very smart to identify it's an HTML page. Okay, let me clear. Now I have this HTML element. And in HTML language, you can put elements inside elements. You can nest them. Okay, so in the HTML here, I can put another element inside it. So I can put another HTML if I want and close it like this. And you will see that the Visual Studio Code helping me in closing the element. And that's why you want to use an editor, because it helps you give this the auto completion features. You don't want to typing everything in a notepad by yourself. So this is nested inside the HTML, and you can see that the Visual Studio Code actually indented for you. Perfect. So now you know that you can put elements inside an elements, but you gotta be cautious when you do that because you might mess up the stuff. By the way, we said an HTML page should have a head and a body. Remember the picture of the Family Guy? He have a big head and a big belly. So you have to define that where they are located inside your document. So I have to start to write my head. You see the Visual Studio Code now is helping me. Tell me you want to H1, I put HE, and it's pretty smart to tell me, oh, you want the head. Yes. So even if you forget, it will help you. And once I put this closing, it will put the closing tag for me once I close the opening tag. Okay, so these brackets are the opening and the closing for the opening tag. And here, this whole thing is the closing tag. So this is my head. Now I need to create my body, that where I'm going to put all the good stuff where the user going to see. You put body, and you see Visual Studio close it for you. Now, both the head element and the body element are nested inside the HTML element, as you can see, right? So if I save that, nothing, you will see nothing. This is just the structure of your page. If I open my page here, I don't see any visual anything because I didn't put any elements here. I didn't put paragraphs, I didn't put headers, I didn't put images. I see nothing here. But this is the structure of my page at this point. Any page should have an HTML tag defining to the browser that this is an HTML page, and you have to define where is the location of the head information and where is the location of the body information. Okay, and you can put indent them like this, put a tab. I'm just putting tab, put them away. Okay, what could you put in the head? We said it's information that the browser understands it. And you put inside the head and you go in between. Don't, because I see a lot of students do it this way. In the opening tag, this whole thing in the opening tag, and they do it this way, and they start adding a new tag. This is incorrect, and now Visual Studio Code give you a red that this is wrong. So make sure that after the opening tag, in between the opening and the closing, you put here, you add a new element. And the first element we're going to add is the title. To give your document a title, it's like when you're creating a Word document, you want to give it a title. So in that case, I'm going to open, put title, close the title. And now, notice the title is inside the head. And I can put any title, can put my page like this. The text, you put a text between the opening and the closing of the tags. So now this whole thing is called the title element. Okay. Okay, is that going to make any changes to my page? Let's see. As I said, the head is information to the browser, not to the user to see. So if I open my basics, I don't see anything. Does anybody notice anything changed here? What about this? You see the title here of the page. So now this is the title of the page and it will appear on the tab over here. Is that all? No, it's not all. Title have a huge importance when it happened for search engines. So when a search engine look for your page and it's going to list your page, it will be whatever the user see. For example, let's go to Google because it's the search engine. And let's search for anything. Doctor. Okay. Block. You see here, find doctor, NYC Health Hospital. This actually is the title of this page. So whatever you see in this search list is the title of this page, and I can prove it to you. If I click in this link, you see now, this is the title here, Doctor Archive, NYC H+ Hospitals. And if you go here, it's probably not the best. Doctor definition and meaning, doctor definition and meaning. You see, this is here. The title of this page is whatever was listed here inside the search engine. So the search engine will use the title to list your web page online. So it's very important to have a good title for your page because this is whatever the user going to see when he search for your page, right? So that's another usage for the title. It's not only whatever the user see here, it's whatever when a user search for your web page or your app will see in the search engine listing. All right, getting back to our application. So I have the HTML, the head, and the body. Here in the body, I can start adding something so the user can see. One tag is called paragraph if I want to enter a paragraph. So paragraph is short by P. So I can close my P here. And then you're going to put inside it here any text paragraph. This is my first web page. Save that. And now the user should see only whatever you have inside the body. And inside the body, currently, I have only one element, which is the paragraph. If I try now to take a look at my page, this is my first web page. And this is the paragraph that I added inside my page. Okay, now let me open it side by side here. Any questions before we move? Anybody having any trouble? Either understanding or an error coming from the Visual Studio Code. If you have an error, you will see like a red squizzly line, like if I didn't close it here, or even if you do mistake, your app should, by the way, render correctly. The browser is smart. So now let's change this. Let's now, instead of my first paragraph, let me add my second paragraph. Okay. Save it. Once I save it, you don't see that the page changed. That didn't happen. In order to see the change, you have to refresh the page. Once you refresh the page, you see the change here. Let me put it my third. And notice that you have this white circle on the top. That means I didn't save. So to save it, Control S. Once you save it, but this page didn't update instantly. I have to refresh the page. And that's okay for now, but after some time, it's going to be very, very annoying as a developer because you're going to make a lot of changes. You're going to write a lot of codes and you want to see them live. As long as you save this file, you will see it here. Okay. And in this case, we're going to use another extension that will help us to do that. And the extension that I'm going to use, I'm going to go to my extension here. This is like Apple Store for you. You go here and search for any extension. And the extension that I want to look for is called Live Server. This is the one. I already installed it. It's very popular extension. You can tell it's very popular by there is 23 million person install it. Okay, so 23 million developer install it, and they have all this. So click install to install it. Once you install it, it's in your page. And to use this extension, all you need to do, if you want to run this page, whatever you just developed right now, you right click. And in the right click, you're probably going to have different list than mine, but you will see that option open with live server after you install the extension, of course. So right click and open with live server. And now your page should get loaded here. And I have my third paragraph. And now any change that I'm going to make to this page, I don't have to refresh it here. It's going to happen instantly once I save. Okay. And this is the beauty of using live server. So now I can make some changes here, put it back my first paragraph. Notice it's not saved. Click and save. You see now it changed to my first paragraph. I didn't have to go here and actually keep refreshing the page. I can develop and see the changes happening in real time live by using this extension. Okay, I can, for example, add an exclamation mark here. Save. Once I save, you see it here right away. Any questions? All right, so this is very basic structure of a web page. Let me make a summary. You open a tag of an HTML, this HTML, the opening and the closing, and whatever between them is actually the whole element. So the HTML element having other elements nested inside it. One, it should have the head, and it should have the body of your HTML page. The head is a tag, HTML is a tag, the title is a tag, but you see the title, it's information going to the browser, it's not going to be rendered in here. It's information to the browser to put the name next to the tab of your page. Okay, in that case, we use the paragraph to show a simple paragraph here. Okay, getting back to the presentation. Right, getting back this example, the HTML, you're familiar, you'll see the HTML here. You'll see here the wrapping surrounding the head, and they have the title, and here you have the body, and you have a paragraph. The H1, H short for heading. And now we're selecting the heading number 1, because in HTML you have 6 different headings. And you should use the heading by their importance, and they also visually different. Let's see how the headings look like. Let's test it around. This is currently my page. I can use an H1, and inside here between the opening and the closing tags, I can put my title. And you see, you can tell that this is a title because it's bolded and it's bigger in font, right? And this kind of styles, it come from the browser, because now the browser understands that this is an H1 tag, so it will make it bold and it will give it a bigger size. Okay. As I said, this is H short for heading, and we're using number 1. The number 1 is the biggest one. Let's try the H2. Subtitle. And now I can save. And you see it's less in size. The font size is much less. And you can use all the way numbers till 6. So you can use H6. And this is the smallest heading that you can use. Number 6. As you can see, it's a smaller in size. Whenever you use heading in your page, you shouldn't use them for the way they look like, because again, you can always change the way they look like. They are numbered according to their how they are important in your page. So the most important one is going to be the H1. After that, the less important is going to be H2. The less important is going to be H3, 4, 5, 6. Don't select them based on how they look like, because you can always use CSS to change how they look like. The browser will understand that H1 is the most important heading in your page. And technically speaking, you should have only one H1 in your page as a title of your document. Anyway, so now we're familiar. You have H, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you keep increasing the number, it will be decreasing in the font size. Not only that, you also have the paragraphs. That's just to show some text in the screen. Any questions? Anybody find it hard? Anybody?
It's this part with the body, you know, I'm kind of clear with the opening and the closing. Is the body that's we're not very like, do I have to come all the way down like you're on 14, or is it no, sorry,
line 14?
13, yes, you're on line 13 if I'm correct. Like how do I, if I get line 1 for the opening, the body can be on line 2, then 3 closing or something? I'm not very clear on the how to put that together.
How to put that together? Okay, that's a good question. So let me just make sure that I understand your question correctly. Your question is mainly about the structure, why I have the body opening tag here and why it's here. Technically speaking, all this extra spaces, it don't care about it. I can delete them and it doesn't matter. Okay. If that's what even the tabs, it doesn't matter. The browser don't care. I can put in spaces here. The browser don't care. It reads your code. It tries to understand what is this tags is. And this is just for you as a developer. Whenever it gets scrambled and it's hard to read, you can always right click and select format document, and it will format your document correctly.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a question.
Sure.
After the opening tags, the space is important or not?
Which one? I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Any opening tag, like H1 paragraph.
The closing is important, yes. If you didn't,
the space between H1 and my title.
No.
Okay.
Again, the browser don't care about spaces. It don't care about the tabs, and we're gonna get to that later today. It's just for you. Okay. You want to add space here? It's fine. You didn't add a space here. It's fine. You see, there's no changes so far.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So again, we have simple structure of the page. Again, I can tell you some stuff that I don't want you to do. Don't forget to close it like this. You see now Visual Studio Code tell me, hey, you have an issue in that line. And I see students try to close it like this. This is syntax is wrong. Don't do that mistake. I see students do it the other way. They wrap the H1 around the body. They can put it, they close it here somehow. Which is technically, it's not wrong, but it's not what you want as a developer. I'm trying to make a title here. How come a title wrapping another title, right? That the browser don't care. It's not going to show you an error and it will still render correctly. And let me tell you this, even if you don't have the head or you have the body or anything, and I save that, it will still render. Okay? It's just the structure of the document. You give a clear structure on instructions to the browser how to navigate your code. Okay, so to get back to your code, you just can press Control-Z. If you did a mistake, Control-Z will get undo whatever you did. Okay. Any other questions? It's very important that we all moving in the same phase and we all understand the structure, at least the structure for now. Everything else come much easier after. There's an extension for the structure that I don't really like it that much. If you're a beginner, it's probably going to help you. It's called block. It just creates a block. Forget the name of it. But I just creating blocks line here. You can navigate any extension and see they have screenshots of this. It's like an app store. Forget the name of the extension. I don't know. Black comments. But technically, it's an extension. I'll try to look for it and paste it and show it to you tomorrow. It's an extension that will actually draw lines to show you each code block. It will draw some lines around the body and the head and so on. I don't like it when I code. I see it as like so much distraction. But if you're a beginner, it will show you actually where is the element start, where is close, what is the nested element inside it. It will draw something like this in your code. If you go back to the slides. It will actually do like a border around your code like this. Okay, so you can visually see it. But again, I'll get you the name of the extension tomorrow. It's not on top of my head. And again, as a developer, you should remember anything. You don't have to memorize anything. We have Google, right? You can always search for anything. If I forget anything, I was like, okay, input, what is the attribute of that? You get it? Oh, that was that. And there's a lot of documentations that you can go, or references pages that you can always reference. So don't feel like you're stressed that you have to memorize everything. No, you don't. It comes with practice. That's the key that I want to tell you, that as long as you're practicing, you will get this stuff in your head. Stop practicing for 6 months, you'll forget everything. So, or stop practicing for, I'm not 6 months, but like for a period of time. Of course, you're not going to forget everything, but you will feel rusty, but it will always going to be very fast to come back and memorize everything fast. It's still inside your head and all the information is still there, but the key here is always practicing. Make it a habit. Make coding is a habit for you, and it will help you in your life, definitely. A simple HTML document. You have the HTML. This is how it looks like. And we're going to go over other tags, but you can see it's always HTML, the head, the body. You can see they put the body here and here the indented. It's not a big deal. Who cares about the indentation? This is only for you when you develop. The browser don't care if you indented this body opening tag and you didn't indent it here. It's pretty much the same thing for the browser. Okay. A single HTML document. We already have a single HTML document. HTML text. Now let's talk. We give a small introduction about heading, paragraphs, and we're going to go over horizontal lines, line breaks, and comments. Probably by today, we want to finish all this list. Heading, we saw that we have 6 types of heading, or 6 sizes of headings: H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. Paragraphs is we have the P tag, short for the paragraphs. And we're going to cover the horizontal line breaks, and comments. Before we move over, I want to show you that any page in the internet, You can see its HTML code by simply right-click and view page source. Once you click in the view page source, this is my document here. This is my H1 tag where I put my title. This is my H2, and this is my H6. This is identical to whatever I wrote inside my Visual Studio Code. Of course, you're not going to see the head information because the head was sent to the browser, not to be viewed inside the browser. As you can see, this code is here. So you can go to any page and take a look at how the page was built and was HTML. You can go, for example, to Amazon. And of course, Amazon is a big page. Click, go to Amazon, right click, and I want to right click here, view page source. And you will have the full code of the Amazon. As you can see, it's very complicated because it's have JavaScript code, but don't get intimidated with that. But you will find some stuff that you're familiar with, like you can search here, H1. You will find an H1 tags and paragraph tags. But what I want to show you that any page on the internet, you can see its source code. Okay. This is the source code for Amazon, and this is source code for my simple page. Oops. View page source. Okay. Just right click and view source. Any question? Okay, perfect. Let me go back. So let's talk about the heading or headers in your page. Heading are used to describe the content, and it's very, very important. You put the header to say that this is an important text. This is the header. If you're writing an article, this article should have a heading. It have a subheading. Okay, subheading is less important than the heading itself. So heading is describing how important is this text, not how it should look like in your page. So HTML has 6 levels of heading, which are graded according to the importance. That means 1 is the most important heading. 6 is the least important heading. Okay, so heading are defined with H1 all the way to H6. H1 defines the most important heading, and H6 defines the least important heading. Let me ask you a question. Important to who? When you read this text, is it important to who? To the user? To me as a developer? What do you think?
I think it should be important to the browser.
To the browser, that's correct. So it's you giving to the browser information, so the browser will understand that H1 is the most important one, because again, your code get digested by the browser. So the browser understands your code. Think about it, that you're trying to explain whatever. The whole idea that you're trying to explain to the browser, what do you want the user to see through your code? By selecting H1, you're telling the browser that, hey, this is the most important one. And by that way, the browser will render it in a different way, which is like bold and bigger. Okay, but that's absolutely correct. So let's do this example. So I'm going to create a new file. So you can create a file here, heading dot. We're going to do this example, and then we can go for another break. Headings. I want you now to start the structure of the page. Try to do it with yourself. Try to define that this is an HTML document, and put the head, put inside the head the title, because the title is information to the browser, create the body, and inside the body, that's where I'm going to put my code. So I'm going to define here HTML. Put some spaces here, so I don't want to make mistakes. Put the head inside the head.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, like in the slides in the presentation, there is a DocType tag at the beginning.
This DocType, I'll explain the DocType in details. I'll make sure to explain that. But that's a good catch. That's a very good question. Your page will render without it. It's not a big deal. I'm going to tell you what is the importance of this. But let's first put the layout. And after I put the layout, I will add the DocType. But as I said, that's a very good catch. So let's put the title, HTML heading. So that's my title. It's done. Again, you can put tab to visually see that everything is underneath the HTML. It's fine. The browser don't care about it. You can put as many spaces you want. You can start typing your body here. The browser actually don't care. Or you can remove the spaces or the. And now I'm gonna start H1 heading 1. And let me show you some of the shortcuts that you can use with Visual Studio Code. So the very first shortcut here is you put your cursor here and you press Shift, Alt, and arrow down. Shift, Alt, and arrow down. And notice what's that going to happen. It's going to copy it down. Every time you press the arrow down, it will be copying this line one more time. Okay, so I can copy my H1 here 5 more times, this line 5 more times by simply pressing the Alt and the Shift, and then now I'm pressing the Alt and Shift at this point of time, and now every time I press the arrow down, it's going to copy it. So I'm going to copy it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now change the number here to 3, 4, 5, 6, and also here change it to 2. Notice the Visual Studio Code, once I change it to 2, it will change the closing tag to 2 as well. Here, if I change it to 3, it will change the closing tag to 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's the reason you're using an editor, because it's help you and make your development much easier. These are the 6 headings. If you try H7, it's the browser. Let's try it together. H7. H7. This is heading 7. Again, there's no H7 or level 7, but let's see how the browser can render it. And I didn't open this document with Visual Studio Code. Yes, thank you, Kona. It's option in Mac. I think also the control have a different key in Mac. Options in Mac is the alternative of Alt in Windows. And for the control, I'm not sure what it called in Mac system. But anyway, we're not using the control button right now. But anyway, this is the old page, which is the basics. I can close it now because I'm currently in a completely different file, and I can close this one. Now I can right click here and open it with the live server to see this page. Open it with live server. It's going to immediately open my page. And notice now that the heading 7, it don't understand what you mean by heading 7. It's just going to put the text as a paragraph. Okay, let's view the source. It's a little bit complicated because this part is injected by the live server. This is not your code. You see, it's saying that this part here is injected by live server. But this is your code here. You see H1, H2, H3, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, and heading 6. And of course, there is no heading 7. So you can add a comment in your page. The comment will not going to be rendered. It's just a comment for yourself. Like, let's say you want to take a notes in this file, and it's not going to affect how the page look like. It will be completely ignored by the browser by simply pressing Control, which in that case, the option in Mac, and the /. So the Control and the /, it's actually going to toggle any comment. So if I press it again, it's going to remove it. Okay. So now I can add any text here. This text is just for me. And if I save that and I take a look at my page, it's not there. Even if I refresh, whatever you put inside the comment, it's not there. And again, the comment itself, it should look like a tag, but it have this weird syntax. We're going to talk about the comment separately, but for now, if you want to type in something for yourself to memorize anything or take notes, you just press Control /, and in between these dashes here, you can type anything you want. It's completely off the record. If you want to communicate with another developer to give him, hey, watch out, this code is not working or anything, you put it inside a comment. And in that case, H7 is not part of HTML elements. Will render as paragraph. Okay, so I wrote a comment for myself and you guys. In that case, if you try to something like H7, it's actually not going to work. Getting back to the question of the DocType. Okay, DocType, it's a single tag that you added here, and you type in DocType, exclamation DocType, and you notice that it's just an opening tag. It don't have a closing tag in that case. Okay. And you have the DocType. Before it, there is an exclamation mark. Let me give you another shortcut in that case to help you to read this. Again, this is the shortcut time. Control plus. It's gonna make the font bigger. It's like you zoom in Visual Studio Code. You see? Now the text getting bigger, I'm zooming in. So now you can see the text better. Control minus, you zoom out. So you can zoom in and zoom out by Control plus or Control minus. Or in that case, in Mac, it's going to be the Option key. So I'm just going to make the text bigger here for you guys to see it. This element don't have a closing. This tag don't have a closing tag, and it's exclamation mark DocType, and it's case insensitive. If I type it DocType, it doesn't matter, lowercase. If I type it this way, it doesn't matter. It's case insensitive. The browser will still understand it. Okay. Now, why it say DocType HTML? Here, the convention between the developer to use a capitalized letter, by the way, DocType. What is a doc? Doc is a document, which is referring to my current HTML document. And I'm defining the type to the browser. So I'm telling the browser that my document type is HTML. Well, what is the big deal, right? The browser should know only it's an HTML. The browser is not going to render anything else besides HTML. No, keep in mind, this HTML here, it's referring to the version of HTML that you're using. Just putting HTML, that you're telling the browser, hey, my document using HTML5, which is the latest HTML. What if you want to use a code that's not an HTML5 and you want to put identify to the browser that you're using HTML, let's say 3 or 4, then it's not going to be HTML like this. It's going to be something different, which let's take a look. If you, as I said, I don't memorize it because it's a long string. You can search for DocType for HTML4. Okay. This is HTML5, but just HTML indicating that this is HTML5. I will show you what is the value here that you put for HTML3 or 4, but definitely you want to program in HTML5, just putting HTML in that case. So if you go here, you have the W3 School. It's a great reference web page. It will have different DocType. You see here, for version 4, you put all this text here. I don't memorize that, of course. So it's easy to search for them. You type in DocType HTML4. And with that line, and remember, in HTML5, we're just using HTML. They make it simpler. And the HTML, it's just HTML here. It's identified to the browser that you're using the latest HTML, which is 5. But this text here, tell the browser that you're using version 4.01. This text here, different text, is for XHTML 1.1. So whatever inside the DocType, the text that you're putting here, it defines what kind of HTML that you're writing your page with. Okay, and again, 100% of the time, you're gonna only using HTML5. This is a history now, right? So to identify to the page that you're using HTML5, so you're using the DocType, you identify the type of the document, and you just put HTML. Just the HTML, tell the page that you're using HTML5, not HTML3, not HTML4. Okay, now we identify the type of the document, we identify where the HTML code start and where it's end. Where is the head of my HTML code and where is the body of my HTML code? Okay, so DocType identified to the browser, the user not going to see anything, what version of HTML that you are using. Okay, in that case, we want to use HTML5, so the DocType HTML. Don't, I have one student put it this way. Nope, just HTML, it's actually mean HTML5. Okay, any questions about DocType? Okay, again, it's not gonna reflect anything in your page or how it's gonna render. My page still render the same, right? But now this is an instruction or identification to the browser. Hey, I'm using HTML5 in my code. All right, it's a good time to take our second break. Let's take a 12 minutes. Now, right now it's 9:18, so it's 20. Let's get back 9:30 exactly, and then we can continue with the heading and paragraphs. And there's some tricks, of course, I want to show you, and more shortcuts that we're going to cover with Visual Studio Code. And that's what makes Visual Studio Code really nice, because once you get the hang of the shortcuts, it's becoming very easy, and you can do many things with the shortcuts. Like you can copy text very fast in that case, and you can do so many things. Any questions before we go to break, guys?
Thank you for the instructions. Great, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, so I'll see you exactly in 9:30. Guys, we're going to continue here. And before the break, we covered headings, and we learned that we, for HTML, we have 6 different levels of headings, starting from H1 all the way to H6. Let's continue. and see what other elements we can use in HTML. And of course, if you're familiar with this information, I know it's probably going to be a little bit boring because since this is the beginning, but again, it's always good to get back and look into the basics. And before you run, you should always walk. And that's why we're doing the basics of HTML. It's very important. Let me share my screen. And we're going to get back to the slides. We did this example. Any question about this example using the 6 different headings in HTML? Okay. Paragraphs, which is the P tag, the first letter of paragraphs. Paragraphs is the text content in your page. Usually you have a heading, subheading, and then you add a paragraph, which is the text, similar to the Word document text. So you can add a paragraph. You can add as many as you want. In that case scenario here, or in this example, you're adding 2 paragraphs. You can add 3 of them. You can add as many paragraphs as long as you open and you close the tag. And I want you to notice one thing here. Notice that this text, each paragraph will take its own line. You see the first paragraph, you don't see that the second paragraph start after it. No, the second paragraph, it starts in its own line. It's always going to be the beginning of the line. Okay. So the P tag or the P element stands for paragraph. Paragraph element contain blocks of text. When I mean blocks, this is a whole block of text. The other one have to be in the line after it. It can't be right next to it. So don't expect that the second paragraph will be right next to it. No, this is how the browser rendered. Each paragraph have its own line, okay? Not right next to each other. If you want to continue in some text here, you should add it in the same paragraph here. Okay, so let's add a couple of paragraphs and see how paragraphs can get tricky. So I'm going to create a new file. So I can close all these files by pressing the X over here, going to this icon here in my Explorer, and can type in here a new file, paragraphs. .html. And let me show you another trick that Visual Studio have. You can, instead of typing everything from the beginning, the DocType or the head and the body and all this, you can generate a boilerplate for your HTML. And to generate a boilerplate in Visual Studio Code, you just type an exclamation mark and press enter. You see now you have it saying emit abbreviation, and you'll see have this drop down list. If I click on it or press tab or press enter, you see it generated a layout of an HTML page. There is some other stuff that you're not familiar with, so we can remove it. But at least I get the DocType, I get the HTML, you can remove this. I get the head, I get the title, and now I can update my title. And instead of retyping all of this stuff by myself. And I'm going to say paragraphs. So again, let's do it again. So you guys get it. Just press exclamation mark, press tab, enter, or anything. And here we go. This is the boilerplate. You will notice that there is some text that you're not familiar with, and they look like, what is this text? You can simply delete them. Anything that you don't understand it, remove it. This here have lang equal English. This is just an instruction to tell the browser that I'm using an English language in my page, but we'll cover that later. So this is simple layout. Instead of typing everything by myself, nice little help from Visual Studio Code. And again, that's the reason we're using editors. In that case, paragraphs. Or in that case, let me put the title HTML paragraphs. Let's add a paragraph here. My first paragraph. Let's see how it render. Of course, currently I'm opening the old document, so I need to close it. Let me open it side by side. Can always. If you click in this here, it will toggle. You see, I can toggle now the view. Now I don't see the files. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna put it side by side. And now I'm gonna right click in my code, in my HTML code, to open it with Visual Studio Code. Open with Live Server. I mean, open it with the Live Server, not Visual Studio Code. And here I see my paragraph. Notice if I try to put many spaces here and I save, I don't see the spaces here. That's because the browser ignored the spaces and it's ignore the enter. So if I want to enter or a new line, create a new line like this. I have a lot of spaces and I have multiple new lines here. If I save that, now I'm going to save it because now it's unsaved. Notice that the browser didn't view it the way that I write it here between this tag. Okay, and keep that in mind. The browser will ignore the spaces and the new lines when you put the text between the opening and the closing paragraphs. Okay, now you know that. How actually I let the browser put some spaces, or I want to write something. Let's say you're writing a poetry, okay, and poetry have multiple paragraphs or multiple lines that you want to type it in a certain way. Let's say I'm writing a poetry now, and I want to have multiple lines. This is a great web page, and I'm going to have a new line. My first page, something like that. You have multiple spaces, and I want to put multiple spaces and multiple lines. How can I tell the browser to print it actually the same way I type it here inside my code? Because if you save now, everything is gonna show in the same line. If you wanted to have it this way and let the browser keep the spaces and keep the new lines, then you don't want to use that p tag. It have an element that called pre, short for preserve my text or my spaces in. The pre here, if I save, it will render it the same way I write it. Okay, and this is the difference between the p tag or the paragraph and the pre tag. Okay, in that case, you see you have the spaces. If I'm adding actually more new lines, I will have them viewed in my browser here. But this is a side note. Just be aware that the paragraph, or you know what, let me, my first page, keep it. I can keep it as a pre, and I can comment it for you guys when you check this code. So if I comment the pre, and I comment it by selecting it, selecting the whole thing, and press Control /, since it's now a comment, it's not going to view in my page. You see the view now, the page is clean. See, since I commented. If I want to uncomment it, Control /, I have it back. So now commented, that's mean you disable this command. And now I have my page clean. So I'll keep it here as a reference for you guys when we share the code with you. But now let's focus more on the paragraph. Paragraph, this is my first paragraph. And what is the shortcut to copy this line one more time down? You guys remember? Control, Alt, and arrow down. I mean, Alt, Shift, arrow down. It will copy it down. And I can add another paragraph second. And now they will render the first paragraph. It's going to have its own line. Second paragraph here, it will have its own line. What if you created a long paragraph? Let's create a long paragraph. Okay. And you can, let's put a dummy text. So you can type in here dummy text, a lot of characters, or Visual Studio Code can help you with that. How we're going to help you with that? You can use something called lorem string, which is dummy string. So I can put here LOREM, and it will generate a whole paragraph for you. And if now you press tab or enter, it will generate a dummy paragraph of text. And here we go. You see it's all in the same line, and you have to scroll all the way to the right to see it. But if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to keep scrolling, Visual Studio Code, you can go to View and then select Word Wrap, which is Alt-C. If you do Word Wrap, it will wrap the text, so you don't have to scroll all the way there. Okay? Let me tell you this now. You can't predict how this paragraph will be rendered in your browser. Why I'm saying that? Because now it depends to the size of the browser. This is a long paragraph having many dummy text inside it, right? So now let's see how it looks like. It's look like this. By default, your browser will wrap the text. You see, every time I'm minimizing my browser, you see how the text now gets wrapped. So the browser can guarantee the output of the text as long as you making the width bigger. Your whole paragraph will span over here, and it's going to get wrapped every time you minimize the width of the browser. So it will be wrapped. So you can tell what is exactly the width. You can't confine it with a specific width. That's the job of the CSS. But the basic paragraph will have and be in your page, and every time you minimize the width of the page, it will start to wrap on the next line. Okay. Any questions? And again, to generate this dummy text, all you need to do, just type in lorem. Let's say, let's do lorem 5. If you put lorem 5 or a number, it will generate 5 words. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say I want to generate 3 dummy words. So it's going to be lorem 3. So 3 dummy words. I want to generate 20 words, lorem 20, and it will generate 20 dummy words. So you can control the length of this dummy text. And it's helpful when you develop like a page and you want to have some dummy text as a content of your page. And instead of just the number after lorem, you can multiply it. Multiplication is going to be the number of paragraphs. So without a multiplication, just the number is the number of words. Multiplication means the number of the paragraphs. So if I put 2, I will have 2 paragraphs. So the first paragraph and the second paragraph. I can have a very big text, 10 paragraphs. And you'll have a whole article, dummy article here, right? But for now, I'm just going to stick with just one lorem, which is 1 paragraph. And you press enter, of course. That's give me 1 paragraph. Any questions, guys? Any about the pre, how you can comment? Anybody confused? We can go over it again with different example.
How do you do the code on read like not unreadable? You make it like not code with the.
You mean how it gets wrapped and in different lines here? You go to view and select the word wrap. If I uncheck that, you will see now it's whole in the same line, and I have the scroll bar down there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if I go to view and word wrap, and in that case, I'm going to wrap the text, and I don't have to keep scrolling left and right between my code.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to understand this dummy text.
Mhm.
Yes. Is it for me as a web developer? Like it's just, is it something like maybe in notes for myself, or it's something that would actually, it can something that I can put on the website, as in on the page on that I'm creating?
Mhm.
Like what I'm seeing right now, what you've done.
Mhm. Yeah, let's say you have I'll give you a real world scenario. Let's say
Okay.
you have a client that you're developing his web page,
Okay.
and you're talking with him and you're just brainstorming for the web page, and you want to tell him, hey, in this area, we're going to have some description about you. In this area, we're going to have the footer, but you don't want to move ahead and put this content yet. You're just brainstorming. So as a placeholder for this text, you can use the dummy text.
Okay.
When you agreed on everything, then you update the dummy text with the actual text.
Okay, I get it now. Thank you.
So it's mainly for rapid prototyping. You creating a rapid prototyping, you just a placeholder for the actual text that you're going to write it later.
Okay. Okay, I get it now. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. And if you want to have a notes, that's the comment. You just put the note and you press control, you highlight it, control/, and this is the note for you or other developers or anybody that actually reading your code. Okay. Any question about the paragraphs? How to use the paragraph element in general? Keynotes, it don't preserve spaces, it don't preserve U lines. The browser don't care about U lines or the spaces that you put it here in the text between the opening and the closing of the p tag. Good. Horizontal lines. Horizontal lines will actually create a horizontal line in your page, visually horizontal line. Let's add a horizontal line here between this set of paragraphs and this paragraphs. And horizontal line, I just want to make a small note about it. It's, you see the paragraph, it's have an opening tag and closing tag. You see the body have an opening tag, closing tag. Some elements in HTML, they don't have opening and closing tags. Okay, and the reason because you can't put anything inside it. Like a horizontal line, what you're going to put inside a horizontal line? Nothing. So you don't need actually an opening and a closing tag for it, right? So it's called self-closing element. Horizontal rule or line, whatever you want to call, but in here, it's short by HR, okay, which is short for horizontal rule. And you put it like an opening tag, that's fine. Browser have nothing wrong here, and it will understand it, but there's no closing tag, okay? Just opening tag because it's not going to have any content inside it. Or the best practice or the best way to write it is you putting a / at the end, not the beginning like here. The closing tag here have the / in the beginning. When it's self-closing element, you put the / at the end here. Okay, this is self-close. It's closing itself. It don't require opening or closing tag because you can't put any content inside it. So let's see how this look like. First, again, you will do this mistake a lot. You forget to save your code and come back here. It's like, hey, why I don't see the horizontal line? So make sure that you save your code. And you see here, you will have the horizontal line or the horizontal ruler. The HR is short for horizontal ruler. Or yeah. Okay, so it gives you like visual horizontal ruler. Yes, if I remove it, the browser will completely understand it. Here, it's rendered correctly. Okay, but this is not the correct syntax for a self-closing. The correct syntax that you have the / at the end here. This is the correct syntax for it. Okay, and this is actually one of the main differences between XHTML. XHTML, if you didn't put this /, it will give you an error. It's more strict than HTML. Okay, so with XHTML, you must close the tags, and you put this /. It will give you an error. If it will not going to render correctly if you didn't put it. But with an HTML, it's this kind of loose type programming language that it's okay if you didn't close it, it will render correctly. Okay, so this is the horizontal ruler. Very easy tag. It will give you visual horizontal line in your page.
How can we make a vertical line?
Vertical line like this? Like this? You can't unless with the help with the CSS.
Yes.
Because keep in mind, the horizontal line is not for viewing. It's not intended. Again, HTML is just a structure. It's not styling. So if you want to put a line so the user can look like your page is nice and there's like line, this is not the use case for horizontal line. Horizontal line, it's building block to tell the browser that, hey, now I'm breaking this 2 sections. I want to separate them. And that's give indication to the browser, okay, this is separation between 2 pieces of your code. Not visually. Yes, it will give you, so the browser will show you that it's visually as a line, but the importance of it is that you actually tell the browser, I want to separate this section from this section. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Let's get back to the here. So tag created a horizontal line, as we saw. Tag is displayed as horizontal rule. Tag is used to separate content on the HTML page, not only visually. Yes, the browser will interpret it visually as a line, but we actually use it to separate the content of my page. Line breaks. What about line breaks? What if it's another self-closing element? So this is my first paragraph. I want to view it like this, that I want to have a new line here. Okay, so if I try to do that right now, we know that the browser will not going to allow me to do that, and it will put it like this. When you add the break line element, it's going to actually will cause this line to break and go to the next line. Okay, how it looked like. Again, it's a self-closing element, so it can be written like the HR here. So I can add the PR, which break line, like this. BR short for break. I want to break here, and that will cause your text to start from the next line afterward. Okay, so this is, I'm telling, hey, the text that come after, I want it to be in a new line, separate line. So let's view it together. Let me save here, of course. Hit save. And now we see the paragraph in a separate line. And even if it's not in your code in a separate line, doesn't matter what in your code, it can be in the same line, but now the browser read this break element and it understands that anything following it, it should be in its own line. So it's going to break the line and go to the next line. Let me save, show you, and close. And now notice that this is in the same line. Let me actually put it side by side. Okay, you see, still breaking my line. BR is breaking the line into separate lines. And you can add as many as you want. I can add another BR. Save. You notice it's going to go another line. If I can add another BR tag. So now I have 2 empty lines and the one that I break already here. Okay, so you can add as many as you want. Break lines. Any questions about this element? Again, it's self-closing. There is no opening and closing for it. It's self-closing element. Okay. So tag stand for a line break. It will break your line. Okay. Tag is used to add a single line of text. Tag has no end tag, similar to the HR. HR, as you can see for HTML, you can either have the / or not. It doesn't matter. It's fine, but best practice that you add the /. In this example here, this paragraph, this will be rendered in its own line. In the next line, you will have this is, so the browser will put this is, and now it will read the break line here or the line break tag. So it will break the line at this point, go to the next line, because here is where the PR tag is. Now it will start the text after this tag in a completely new line, as you can see. Questions? Anybody? I believe that the HR and the PR tags are the easiest tags ever because they are self-closing. You don't have to worry about closing them. Pretty straightforward. Comments. We've been using comments, and there is the short hand by using Control / to create a comment right away. But the syntax of a comment is this less than tag or bracket, and then exclamation mark, then 2 dashes, and you add your comment here. And you have, this is the opening of the tag, and this is the closing of the tag, which is another 2 dashes and the greater than bracket. Okay. So the browser don't display the comments. It will not gonna display your comments, but the comments is for you. You take in notes on your codes like, hey, here's this is the beginning of my code. Here's this piece of code will do this, or this is the login page code. So you can add comments for yourself, okay? So when you get back to the code after like 2 months ago, you know, you can read the notes that you put it for yourself. We can place warnings, description, and other notes. Any notes that you want to add as a comment, you add a comment to yourself, which again, as a Word document, you can add comments in them, right? You can press the comment button and you can add comments for yourself. It's not part of the document, but it's for you or anybody else reviewing your document. Comments are also important for debugging HTML. How? By disabling an element. So this whole paragraph, if I believe this is causing an error in my page, I can simply comment it. So I'll disable it and see if my page will work perfectly afterward after I comment it or not. If it worked perfectly, now I know that the reason was causing the error was that specific paragraph that I just commented. So you can use it for debugging your page. We can use comments for searching for errors. Comments can add the text between the characters, which is, this is the syntax, which is a little bit weird syntax. That's why I use the control forward slash and just type in my text inside it. I don't bother to type in the brackets and exclamation mark. Okay. Any questions about HTML comments? Tomorrow, we're going to start with the list, images, and all the fun stuff. But for today, I have a quick quiz for you to see how many information you was able to get. So let's start the quiz. It's a fun quiz. It's game quiz. So we're using Kahoot here. Okay, I can start it. And all you need to do is just go to this web page, and you will have this number. And you will see here some questions. Okay, we got Aaron, Marky. Don't be shy, guys. Come in. We're gonna see who's gonna be the first. Murat. Emmy. Kostra, please get more people coming in. Okay. We'll see who's gonna be the first, second, and the third. We're looking for the first 3 places. Okay, you get more people coming in. All right. Let's start. Okay. If you want to join, just write this number down and we can join the quiz. Let's start. 3, 2, 1. How many headings are in this HTML code here? So you have 1 heading, you have 4, 6, 2, or 8.
How are we answering the questions?
Hmm?
How are we answering the questions on the Kahoot website?
Yeah, where you. We got 13 answers. Okay, we got 12 correct answers. We have 6 sizes of heading. We have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. Okay, next question. So we have Murat, the first, and then we have Koldev, and this is the list of the top correct answers. Let's go to the next question. How many paragraphs in this page? Okay, we can click skip. Okay, good. 15 correct answer. We have a total of 1, 2, 3 paragraphs. So we have here 1, 2, and total of 3 paragraphs. Let's go to the next question. And we have Bushra now coming to the first place, and CoolDev stayed in second place. Let's go to the next question. How do you put a comment in your HTML? Which is the correct syntax? Okay. Any 19 answers? Wait for 3 seconds. If nobody answer, we can skip. 20 answers, good. 21. We can skip now. 15 correct answers. Let's show the media. Oh, this is just the image. So this is the correct answer. It is the less than bracket, exclamation mark, and then 2 dashes. And then you put your comment, 2 dashes, and then the greater than bracket. CoolDev now is in the first place. Perfect. HTML elements must always have both opening and closing tag. It's an easy one. 14 said true and 8 says false. And it's false because we have the horizontal line. It don't have an opening and closing tag. The new line bracket, it's just self-closing tag, right? So it's false. Not always. Keep in mind the question, read the question correctly, saying it's always have both opening and closing. Nope, it's not the case for horizontal line or line break. Okay, we still have CoolDev in the first place. Let's see the next question. HTML element with no content are called empty, hollow, void elements. We didn't mention that in the class, but you get the idea. You can guess this one. Empty elements. Yep, self-closing or empty element. And again, we didn't mention the definition as an empty element, but they usually refer to as self-closing or empty elements. But if you guessed it, you got it correctly. That's a good guess. HTML, what is the difference between the opening and the closing tag? The opening tag starts with a capital, the closing doesn't. The closing tag has /, has no, so read it correctly because sometimes the texts are confusing. The closing tag has no / and the opening tag does. The opening tag has no / and the closing tag does. The closing tag starts with a capital and the opening doesn't. Give you a hint, capital is not part of the answer. We don't care about the capitalization. Okay, anybody else before I hit skip? Because it's taking too long. Perfect. 18 answer correctly. Yes, the opening tag has no forward slash, and the closing tag does have the forward slash in it. Kona, welcome to the dashboard. Let's see the seventh question. What is the definition of an HTML? That's an easy one. Hitting Timmy mom luxuriously. Definitely is not that one. Seventeen did it correctly, which is the language used to develop basic web pages. Yeah, Kona, it's the definition of it, so you have to describe it. You probably thought, what is it short for? That's why you selected none of the above. But I believe the people that selected none of the above was waiting to see like hypertext markup language. But hypertext markup language is the abbreviation. Okay, we still have cool dev at the top. Here's the question. I just give you the answer for it. It is tricky with the wording, I agree. But I'll teach you to read the question correctly. Perfect. Hypertext markup language is the correct answer. The last question, in HTML, which tag will end an HTML document? So it will end your document. As you can see, all of them are closing tags. Four, three, two, one. Perfect. The closing of the HTML. Let's see who got to be the first, who got to be the second, and who got to be the third. Feliz, congratulations, you're in the third place. Bullet, you're in the second. And let's see who's the first. Cool dev. Great, nice work. And we have in the fourth place, Pardeep and Kona. Okay,